explanation of everything.
It's been Agatha all along. Welcome to the Marvel podcast, everyone, where we're going to be discussing how it was Agatha all along. I'm joined. It's so catchy, right? I've had it in my head all morning.
Fire. Straight fire.
Oh my God. Like, we're going to be gushing about so many things, including the Agatha song. We'll talk about Agatha Harkness in this episode. But yeah, I'm joined here with Hacks Dogma. This is the Marvel podcast. You know what it is. We're discussing WandaVision today, episode number 7. Holy shit, Chris. What an episode, man. Pretty big reveals, don't you think?
Yes. And how is it that like every week, just the newest episode is the best episode, right? Like I think we've talked about this before. I really worry that I have like recency bias, like, and like just love every episode. But every single episode is just so many big reveals, such a cool twist, such a interesting thing. It feels like we've never had a filler episode. I'm sure retrospectively we'll be able to look back and say like one or two of them have been, but like every single week is just so much fun. Like, yeah, I love it.
Oh, man, it really has been so good. We're going to talk about everything, break it all down. We're talking about Easter eggs. For the first hour of the podcast, we're going to talk about our review. Chris and myself are going to have a conversation with you guys. We'll take questions from and then after the main portion of the breakdown, reaction, review, all of that, we're going to do like a 30-minute theory, questions from chat, comments, and it's just going to be super fun, guys. We're excited to be here with you on this Sunday. This is episode number 5 of the Marvel podcast. Hell yeah, we're excited to be here, and we got a donation, my man.
Oh,
to your YouTubers, value plenty. Thank you very much, Morley. We appreciate your generosity. We actually got a featured question because Morley is the top patron of the channel here. We're going to feature the question and talk about the nexus of all realities later. She wants to talk about that, but she says, "Hype and love. I am really enjoying WandaVision and looking forward to your thoughts and insights regarding this latest episode. Looking forward to seeing what will happen in the last 2 episodes." Yeah, we were talking about that before the stream, Chris, and we're hoping that the last 2 episodes are an hour each. That would be cool, right?
Oh, that'd be so cool. And I think there was a poster or some Twitter account was confirming that, but it did confirm that all 3 of these last episodes would be an hour each, and of course this last one was only 30 minutes. So, man, I cannot tell you.
Are we getting a 10th episode then? I don't know.
I don't know, but I can't tell you that feeling every single time the "Please Stand By" screen comes on. I am just like rage. I don't know why. I'm just like, damn it, dude. Like, I'm a heathen. I'm a fiend. I'm fiending for more WandaVision, and they just got to give it to me.
It really animates you, dude.
It does.
Like, it's pretty crazy because Chris is like a very Hax here is an even-keeled person. So to see him enraged, I want my WandaVision.
Yeah, I just let out a good no, drop to my knees and everything.
I did that this morning, by the way. I just dropped my most recent WandaVision video talking about Cataract, Mephisto, and Monica's new powers. And when I was, so it's only a 10-minute video, but I was at minute 7 of my editing and I hadn't saved it for like an hour and a half. And then boom, my program crashed and I went all the way back to minute 2. So I let out my own no Darth Vader scream, man.
So sad, dude.
So yeah, this episode, dude, Agatha all along, breaking the fourth wall was the title of the episode. I think we should start with that because great influence for this episode, Modern Family, all of the deadpanning, and we've been talking privately. The Office, dude. So I love that's probably my favorite sitcom of all time. But we were talking about before we got on the podcast that this episode and other episodes, specifically Elizabeth Olsen's side, but this episode, like her deadpans, her mannerisms, the way she was moving her hands and everything. I think Elizabeth Olsen will be nominated for an Emmy just because of the range. And this episode, breaking the fourth wall, like as viewers and people who are watching the show, we've already had the fourth wall broken. Like we know that someone is directing the scenes, pulling the strings. We found that out, of course, this episode. But we suspected that all along. But this was like a show within a show, and it was a super cool episode, man. I absolutely loved it, and the especially the Modern Family influences.
Yeah, when honestly, when they had like the jimming the camera, and I think the kid did it, and Vision did it as well, when they just like looked straight at the camera, like, come on. I laughed so hard. Oh, the other part that I legitimately chuckled at was when she was like, I did bite a kid once. she was like, and it just came out of nowhere, man. It was so good.
There's another great YouTuber called Cosmic Wonder who covers Marvel, and that was his last slide in his video. I was just laughing so hard that he included that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we can argue that Catherine Hahn as well. Like, holy jeez, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. I love her so much. Like Elizabeth Olsen has really grown on me. But like equally, Catherine Hahn, every time she's on screen, I just want her to be on screen more. Like, her hair, the way she like, I don't know. Her screen presence is so good for some reason that I can't exactly explain. But in this last episode, when they're in the basement and she like does her little hand thing, like, it was exactly like Wanda did, right? And I was like, oh snap,
like she does when she was with Hayward and all that
choreographed thing, yeah. And so like, yeah, again, I love her as an actress. I think that she equally, some of her, acting is just like top tier in this episode and the entire series. So I'm hopeful that both of them will get the credit that they deserve.
Yeah. Speaking of range, she, I guess we could even talk about like Elizabeth Olsen hasn't really had the chance to be featured like Catherine's a little bit older, but speaking of Elizabeth, like she has never been, I don't want to call Scarlet Witch or Wanda a B-tier character, but she's never been like a main protagonist like never. Thor or Captain America or Tony, anything like that. But now I think like we got to start getting into the discussion, Chris, of like, okay, this is proof that Marvel can work as TV, right? Because we talked about in previous episodes of the Marvel podcast that we've always went to the movies and, stayed for after credit scenes. And that's kind of been the way we've absorbed Marvel content. Of course, me and you read the comics and done all like played games, and many of us have done that. But as far as like the structure of Marvel, it's like getting because we're not getting an hour every week, but I was talking to this, about this point with my friend Jen, who lives here in my hometown, and it's like get Jen, and by the way, she was gonna save watching WandaVision till all the episodes were out, and I convinced her yesterday, and she watched all 7 episodes. But it's like almost like getting a Marvel movie every week, dude, and it's gonna be that for the next ever, right? Like we're getting 6 shows this year, more shows next year. Like, oh my god, dude, this is crazy, and I was skeptical at first because WandaVision, I thought it was going to be more niche, like a Doctor Strange. Not saying that Doctor Strange isn't popular, but if you compare it like at how much money it makes at the cinema, you know what I mean? Like Doctor Strange makes significantly less than like Avengers or Spider-Man, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Like Doctor Strange just doesn't have the footing that Spider-Man, of course, does. Like there has been 30 Spider-Man movies now. Of course, exaggerating, but like 12 is probably a closer number. And the fact that there is so much, like every time you put out a Spider-Man movie, you know what you're going to get. But Doctor Strange just doesn't have that. And so I'm hopeful that Doctor Strange, because he is so powerful, can be a moneymaker equivalent to Spider-Man or Iron Man or the Avengers or something like that. But we just need more movies with him. We need to develop that character more. We need to see, Cumberbund on the screen a little more. And
well, we know that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be in Multiverse of Madness, and that's part of the reason why we're even discussing Doctor Strange at all here. Like we think that there's a small possibility that he appears at the end. I think it's more like I think that Hawkeye could also show up, but because obviously. We'll talk about that a little bit later. He and Wanda share a strong relationship. Yeah. But yeah, it's just so interesting to see the structure. Me and you both like to analyze, kind of it does feel like WandaVision has a 3-act structure now that we're kind of getting into the final act, these final episodes. You know what I mean? So I've been really impressed so far. We've said that almost every time we've started a live stream here, but just again, Kevin Feige, all of the people who are directing things behind the scenes at Marvel, they're picking and what's super cool about this too, Chris, is that Elizabeth Olsen, like a few years ago, was saying House of M was her her favorite comic storyline for Scarlet Witch. in Wanda, and we're going to talk about that. That's what's definitely happening now.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw that interview as well, and it was just like, oh, so cool. The fact that
they're doing this for her too. That's so cool.
The fact that she was like, it shows how dedicated she was to her craft. It wasn't just that, she got the role and then became the Scarlet Witch. It was that, she got the role and then immersed herself in that role. We clearly see that she read the comics or is aware of the lore itself and the story, which to me just makes it feel so much better. Someone who cares about their character, who really wants to get this right. And
that's a very specific story of Scarlet Witch.
Very specific. Very,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, so I love her for that. And the fact that it's actually happening now when she thought it would never happen is amazing. Yeah.
I want to do some shout outs in chat here. We have Wesley, NK Universe, Honest Arse. I like that name. I haven't seen you before, Honest, but nice to see you.
Welcome.
Clarissa. Welcome, Clarissa. Honest. We have Kay Pertinsky, Jess, Wesley. We have the mod team here today. Anthony, of course, Maura Lee. We're going to get to your question later. Tinkerbell and the people that have joined. And I see Fairy Doom in there as well.
Hey.
You know her pretty well. Yeah. So let's get back a little bit to breaking the fourth wall. The title, usually a title of an episode can be pretty revealing. When I was covering Game of Thrones on the channel, I'll be like, oh, okay, we could look at the episode title and kind of sleuth what kind of theme they might be weaving through the episode for all of the different POVs. Breaking, like we saw there was multiple trailers where they showed kind of the Modern Family-esque just influence that they were going to have for this episode. But we talked a little bit about the possibility of, since Vision was he went to the border of Westview, right? He went to the border of Westview and he got pulled back into the Hex, and he kind of had to travel back to get to Wanda in this episode. We never see that. And look at what happens. Agatha finally gets Wanda alone, which is a big deal. And she's been and Vision's intuition, funny enough, if you go back and watch the episodes, his intuition is like, we should be careful around this person. Like, he's like, hey, like, we should watch what we're doing around her. Like, why is she here with the kids? Vision specifically mentions that, and then we see the consequences of that in this episode.
Yeah, I'm still very curious about like the line when he's like, did you really not see what I saw? To Wanda about when she broke the fourth wall. I mean, not breaking the fourth wall, but broke character to say like, Wanda, do you want me to take this from the top kind of thing a couple episodes ago. So I'm curious still, how that relates. And I mean, ultimately it shows that a big part of their plot, concealed by the fact that everybody believes that it's Wanda doing this, a big part of their plot is making sure that Vision, who is this voice of reason, who would figure out the plan, I think, is away from the family. There's a divide between them so that they can't work together. And ultimately that was the importance of Vision having an outsider perspective come in and say, hey, like, I saw a lot of fake things in this world, but the one thing that I saw that was real was y'all's love. And I think that's,
which is a really powerful statement from Darcy.
Yeah, pretty wholesome. So I'm excited for him to come back, but I think it's no coincidence that all the things that, that popped up to prevent him from getting back to Wanda, the red lights, the kids, the construction workers, I think all of that was, a manifestation of Agatha. And if that is a manifestation of Agatha and not Wanda's subconscious or something like that, then yeah, I mean, 100% that, we've been led to believe that Wanda was doing many more things than she was actually doing.
Which makes things even more interesting concerning Director Hayward. I talked a little bit about how let's actually jump into this right now because it's on the top of my head and I kind of want to deconstruct this with you. I just dropped my my newest video at everyone talking a little bit about Director Hayward and his plan with Cataract. And I was talking with Chris yesterday about the possibility that I think we both expect some sort of organization has infiltrated SWORD, right? Because there was that 3-year period since Maria Rambeau died, and Hayward had all that time to do whatever he did with all the different divisions and stuff. Yeah. And because we know that it's now AI and weapon building, sentient weapons, and that's pretty specific, I think. And I talk a little bit about the possibility that this guy, Director Hayward, could be working for Justin Hammer. which is someone that we haven't seen in the MCU for a while. I was thinking about advanced idea mechanics. Adrian Killian is dead. He's another character that has a connection to Iron Man, someone that also kind of had beef with Tony Stark. And now Tony's gone. So I find that interesting, right? Like we have this power vacuum all over the place, Chris. Like Thanos isn't around, and we kind of talked about how maybe this is why Agatha and Mephisto were making their moves now. But I actually still think this is a third-party situation with Hayward. Like he doesn't directly act until Wanda takes Vision's body, right? And he sends Monica specifically to go on this quest. And when she comes out with the information that Wanda has revived Vision, okay, now we're going to kill Wanda. And we're going to do all of these things. And he starts to act more aggressively, right? And I don't know. I kind of just want to get your opinion in chat. You guys can also chime in on this and what you think about this. Because now that the hexes stopped expanding, they're like, oh, we're Project Cataract, we're doing it now. Because they have to act now. So what are your thoughts on it, man? Because I think that some sort of organization has infiltrated SWORD. And I'm not so sure that Maria Rambeau died a natural death. I think that she could have got cancer from some sort of technology or someone making her sick. I'm always suspicious of people that die off screen. And I think that it would even intensify Monica's feelings now, because clearly Hayward, we know that Hayward has nefarious plans with Vision, right? So what are your thoughts on it, man? I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Yeah, so my big takeaway is essentially that I think Hayward still has more going on. I don't know if that's inherently a third party on the outside, such as him working for Justin Hammer or Killian. I think both of those would be really cool. I also think both of those could exist in some form in the future, in the sense of like the armor wars and Tony Stark's technology being used for something that he never wanted it used for, and ultimately turned into this massive battle, between kind of good and bad. But the ultimate relation to, I don't know, the ultimate relation to Vision and Wanda is Agatha and of course Hayward. I think it's no coincidence that Hayward has his eyes set on Vision while Agatha has her eyes set on Wanda. I think they could be working together. Every time I watch these episodes, like my first thought is to think that, Hayward's character is meant to be like the outsider perspective, like the dumb, male that is trigger happy, that sees like this thing and, is shaping, as an easy way for the audience to see how the world is going to perceive Wanda. But then every time I start digging deeper, I just can't help but correlate like these things. And it maybe, correlation doesn't mean causation, but the fact that, Hayward does want Vision, for this project, and it's never worked. He's never been able to reanimate it until Wanda has this power. I think the Maximoff anomaly that he sends the email about may not be referring to the thing around Westview, but the anomalous way that she was able to reanimate his body when they were not. So I think there's still some kind of room to show that he does have more going on, that it's not strictly just him using resources by SWORD for his own personal gain. Though at the same time, like he's acting director, I don't like the email is kind of shaped in a way that makes it look, nefarious, when in reality, like he could have board approval to do these things. Like,
why is he impersonating Darcy? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think ultimately, like the nanotech sentinel theory that I had, I think it's still kind of on the table.
My gut feeling on who Hayward could be is Agatha's son. Like that's like Nicholas Scratch. Like Hayward could be dead. You know what I mean?
I said, so in the script right now, I said that he might be like a part of the Coven of Witches and, warlocks. Because
he has the hexagons in his office. Like he has hexagons on his carpet. He also has hexagons in the pictures. Like there's six and then there's one in the middle, right? So there's six pictures and then one in the middle, which is like, I don't know. It could mean something. I don't think it's not a coincidence considering his actions so far.
I'll be honest. I'm actually, when you said her son, I think that is a great idea. I think if he was in any relation to to Agatha that it would be as a child to Agatha. I think that would make so much sense. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit more research into that before I commit to that. But yeah, I think that would be a really cool twist.
I know. This is like just like a gut feeling on who he could be. Like he isn't just acting director Hayward. Like he's got some sort of other. Yeah. He's got some sort of other title, whether it's working with Agatha, whether he's. He's definitely not Mephisto, because Mephisto, I think, is going to get summoned into the Hex, which we're going to talk about after. So that kind of theory is gone for me. So I'm just kind of wonder if he's like, we talked a little bit about Boulevard Trask and William Stryker, him being kind of this like person who could create the Sentinels or sentient weapons, or like a Justin Hammer. Remember, he tried to acquire Iron Man's nanotech and suit and all of that, right? Just like, and what's really interesting, though, I thought he could maybe be Spy Master too, because in the Armor Wars comics that you referenced, Chris, I talked a little bit about it in my newest video about how the Armor Wars, the synopsis for the show is Tony Stark's worst nightmare that someone gets, like his tech falls under the wrong hands. Armor War Machine is going to be in Falcon and Winter Soldier, so that's pretty interesting. Like that's only 4 weeks away, so there could be like some continuation of what we see in WandaVision with the timeline, and then obviously we're going to have Baron Zemo and whatnot show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But like these organizations kind of moving in with this power vacuum now that Tony is gone and Thanos is gone, and they're trying to kind of they just make their footprint in having who has the most power, right? So I find it really interesting, man, and I see everyone in chat too. Like, yeah, Hayward isn't who we think he is for sure.
Yeah, and someone brought up the idea of the mailman being Quicksilver. What do you think of that? Because the mailman, the mailman. I don't know. I think we saw him in episode 1, maybe episode 2 was the first time, but he always has some kind of relation to Agatha. Like we always see him near Agatha. I think that he is more than he appears to be. And on his
look at his hat too. He has
he had a rabbit. Yeah. So,
we had a mind meld there, lol.
Yeah. But I feel like a few people in chat have posted about how that could mean that he is Quicksilver. I actually don't think he's Quicksilver. I think that he might be working. I think he might genuinely be like making deliveries on behalf of Agatha, like some kind of
Agatha checks him out too, and we haven't seen her husband yet, right? We haven't seen Ralph. That's pretty big, right? Like, and she remember how she checks him out? She's like staring at his ass, and she's like, "Yo, you're thick, dude." You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of weird. I found that kind of odd. That was like affection towards him,
Yeah, she always like does like little finger guns or something. Like, but I think Quicksilver is actually the Rabbit, Senior Scratchy, because there's this idea, like if you look at the ritual room, there's all these like animal bones and animal related things. Yeah, Agatha kills the dog. The cicada on the wall, like could be Mephisto. Like
because his first form was a fly in the extra dimension. Yeah, he was a fly in the other dimension of his realm of hell.
Yeah, so like all of these things, right? To say that there is a direct correlation of her and animals, and then of course we know that the rabbit is right, inside of the house. Excuse me, and then we see at the end credit there, we see not Senior Scratchy, we see Quicksilver pop up and say, "Hey, what's going on?" So I think that there could be like some kind of metamorphosis or transformation thing with animals and her relation to it specifically.
That's pretty interesting too. And her son's name is Nicholas Scratch. Like Quicksilver could even be her son too. Yeah. That could be another thing.
That's what I put in my script. But yeah, so I still want to explore the idea that Hayward is.
Like Agatha is working with someone. That's what we're trying to get at. Like that's let's talk a little bit more about the basement scene. I want to talk about the book because people have been. We see Wesley, who's mentioned the nexus of all realities, and we have a featured question here on the pod that Maura wants us to talk about the nexus in the book.
Heck yeah.
But if you go, so whenever I'm editing a video, I'm in my editing program, I brighten. It's like some scenes I brighten like a basement scene, for example. I brightened it to 100%, and you can clearly see like all the animal bones and stuff like you were talking about, Chris. But if you look on the pillars, there's imagery of the devil. It's clearly a devil, and to me, since all of those roots are going down there, and there's all of these, I mean, we don't see Billy and Tommy anymore. And if we're going with the House of M storyline, Billy and Tommy were literally made from shards of Mephisto's soul. And Vision didn't get Wanda pregnant. Okay, like he's a synthezoid. Okay, like those kids were created by magic within the hex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, but. I don't know.
What I mean?
I wouldn't take too strong of a stance on that. Like they could literally write it in any way humanly possible.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you're saying, but either way, they are created by magic. Magic is
definitely
like the parameters and the kind of conditions that exist within the hex allow for Billy and Tommy to be born. Otherwise, So I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Yeah, in my headcanon, Vision and Wanda smash every night. All right, facts.
Horny jail for Chris. Horny jail for Chris.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah. Jess says Kyle teaches us about the birds, the bees, and the beekeepers. I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about that basement because Agatha reveals herself to Wanda. Wanda is there. She's in the living room, and that cicada. One thing that makes me think that is actually Mephisto, Chris, is like the sounds that she's hearing in her head. There's like this like screeching. There's this screaming and screeching. And we know if we think about those hex symbols in the basement that we see, there's two of them that you see when it's panning through the basement. Yeah. One of them has two lines pointed to a circle. And I think that that's a physical, because it's within the hexagon, I think that that's a representation of the realm of hell. Because hexagons can be seen as a sort of realm. We know that they are a symbol that date back to the earliest parts of the universe with the Infinity Stones. Also, we saw it in Doctor Strange where those books were lodged. That Darkhold book was probably there as well. But the symbol of the hexagon, a realm, a prison, I think that was a clue for me, at least, with the imagery of the devil down. We also have the goat horns and the traditional symbol of like Satan, like people associate the goat with Satan and the devil. So all of that is clearly laid out there, and it makes sense since she's revealing herself to Wanda and she's controlling her and the kids are gone. That's just, I don't know. That's just my interpretation and feeling on it, that she's working with Mephisto.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have to consider what the platform is, right? Disney Plus. We know that children are watching this. We know that Disney wants that sweet child money. So I think that Satan doesn't sell, but what does sell is, kind of like a MCU watered down Satan. So it's like, it's devil imagery in the sense that we need to get Mephisto in the show, and that is who he is. But, it does feel like this watered down version where it's like, kind of things that relate, that could be interpreted as a relation to it, ultimately to get him into the story and not offend all the we humans.
Well, it's interesting
with images of the devil. Yeah.
One of Agatha's first comments to what's one of the biggest comments, she says the devil is in the details, and that's not the only place he is. When Dottie is talking to everyone, and she's inviting her to this group meeting. And it's funny too, if we look back at the talent show, she's like, he's like, my husband Ralph can help. Like, oh, so what do you like? She was like, if you go back and watch the episodes now that we know that she's Agatha, you can kind of deconstruct everything she's saying, and she's giving us hints at what she's actually doing. And that's part of the brilliance of the show, I think, is that, we talked about the way characters are saying things literally, and that we should take it that way. It's all double speak.
Double speak, dude. Even Monica, when she's talking to Wanda, it's like, and again, she's saying like, Hayward is going to be the one that burns this place to the ground. He's going to march in here, make you the villain. Like, all of it just feels like double speak for, literally she's saying that, but then, we know the grander plot that Agatha is actually the one making Wanda the villain. And it feels again like their interests could align and just coincidentally align.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting, because when Dottie says the devil is in the details, and then Agatha says that's not the only place he is, she's literally telling us like, hey, I think he's in Westview, which makes everything that Pietro says even more interesting, right? Because now we know that Agatha was the one controlling Pietro, whoever this is, right? Like she sends him to the door. She's literally having a glass of wine on the lawn, right?
Front yard, yeah.
And she's like celebrating, right? And Pietro makes several interesting comments like, unleash hell, demon spawn, to Billy and Tommy, which suggests that Billy and Tommy are probably made from fragments of Mephisto's soul. Yeah. But also, Westview is charming as hell, like, as he's like been to hell before and he knows the inner surroundings of hell, I guess.
That's the other thing I wanted to talk about, the idea of them being reabsorbed, right? So like there's a big part where it's like they're not there, right? And we know because the aspect ratio changes when she enters into that room, that this is kind of like outside or like an in-between demarcation point between the world. So it's interesting that happens, but the fact that they're not there means that they either can't exist outside of the hex, which would be really anticlimactic. So I think that they've probably already been absorbed. However, there's a tiny room for there to still be room for them to grow, in the sense that now that we know that she purposely killed the dog, and that was again to prompt this growth by the children, because that's what she's done with the children the entire time. We don't see that growth. We see Wanda swoop in, actually be a great mother, and explain that there are rules to the world, that you can't just bend the world to your will. And ultimately it leads to them not growing in that scene. So I think that could mean that there's still room, and that the children themselves need to still be grown for them to be reabsorbed. So I think there's still a chance for them to be around and in the show. Hopefully, I like them. I think they're cool characters. I don't know if I want them to make it out of the hex. Like, I don't know if I want them to actually be a part of the MCU, in the sense that these are very powerful characters. Quicksilver literally being a force that is so hard to write. I mean, how do you write a character that every single battle, you just move faster than every single person? Like, someone has a gun, you beat them. Thanos goes to snap his fingers, you beat him. Like, you literally just fucking run through time. And of course, if I guess if Thanos knew that was coming, he could rewind time. But like, how do you stop that, right? So again, I don't know if I inherently want them in the story, because they are very overpowered. But at the same time, I like them.
The one thing that I think we need to pay attention to is that, like, Pietro makes these antagonistic comments, and Agatha's doing things that are suggestive and antagonistic, like, hey, you should have kids. Like, that's in their first conversation. Like, first conversation. Yeah. Like, have kids, have a family or whatever. And, now we know she's controlling Pietro. The end credit scene, this is telling us that this is part of the MCU. That's the first after credit scene we've got, is post credit scene. And this is telling us that it's a big deal. Because Monica's got her photon powers now. We're going to do a whole section on that. So I'm going to do a whole video on that next week, because I'm so stoked about that. But because once Wanda figures this out, that the kids are gone, which I think is where it's going. Every time they make her feel this grief, this fear, these negative emotions, which are usually attributed to people like Mephisto, right? Yeah. She's going to unleash hell. Like she's going to, like, how much power is she going to be able to release when she finds that out, man? Like, how big is this hex going to get? And that's the thing, right? Like, maybe that's the condition that Agatha is trying to create so that she can bring in Mephisto. Like, there's a certain set of conditions that need to happen for Mephisto to get to our realm, because he exists in his own multiverse in hell. Like, that's his own multiverse. And that's why I think he appeared as the cicada, or maybe it's the rabbit. Some people have said that as well. Or he's a person within the hex, like he's Agatha's got enough juice into, kind of summoning him into someone else, but he's not able to take his pure form until he she essentially brings parts of him within the hex, which would make sense that Billy and Tommy are fragments of his soul. Now those parts are there. They've created a good amount of conditions now for him to exist. And yeah, it's so crazy. I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Do you think that book, you think the Darkhold just constantly, shines those particle effects? Or do you think it's like they were absorbed into the book kind of thing? Like, do you think like just the book just irradiates that constantly, or it's only when there's an active spell going on,
Yeah, dude, this is absolutely huge because Chthon is an evil character, someone that has an attachment to that book, and obviously this book is attached to Doctor Strange.
Yeah, wrote the book, like wrote the scrolls that ultimately, or I'm sorry, I think at first it was written into flesh, like it was literally carved into flesh, and then it was
like this indestructible flesh book. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was transcribed into like stone, and then into parchment, and then of course bound into a book of these scrolls. I think I was contemplating doing a standalone video just on the book, or either just on Agatha, but I think both of those are going to be really important that we know the ins and outs of, and I'm excited.
Well, this leads to, I think we can tie in the book and the Nexus commercial together, actually, and kind of talking about some of the multiverse stuff. Because the last time we really heard about the Nexus of all realities, Darcy was there, my friend, in Thor: Dark World, which is pretty interesting that she's here, right? Because
wait, we in Thor they talked about the Nexus of all realities.
The Nexus of all realities, all of the different realms, my friend, right?
Was that called by name?
But the Nexus is mentioned, yeah. So I think that what's really interesting about this is, and now we got this Nexus commercial, right? Like, and they list all the side effects of it, right? Like, of this commercial, and it's super important because what if? And people have been bringing this up in chat, by the way, that what Agatha could be doing is essentially, trying to, like I said, create this condition or open up the Nexus of all realities, and that's how because she's going to open a specific realm from one of this Nexus of all realities and bring someone from it. Because I think that's witches do a lot of summoning, my friend. That's at their core. It's like a core thing in witch lore.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. In Thor: The Dark World, they discuss the Nexus of all realities as a cross-dimensional gateway that allows access to all possible realities.
Wanda also being affected by the Infinity Stones, which play a huge role in the Nexus of all realities, right? Like the Infinity Stones were there at the creation of all things, and that Wanda and Pietro. They were obviously experimented on by Baron von Strucker, and that's part of the reason why Wanda is so fucking powerful, dude. Like,
so in my video breakdown right now, I mentioned that it's either discussing the Nexus commercials, either discussing the Nexus of all realities and the implications of that, or it's discussing, as CJ32 pointed out, that she is a Nexus being, and also have a theory that Monica may have just became a Nexus being as well, but we'll talk more about that later. So I don't know if it's inherently speaking to either or they're going to do some kind of combination of the two, to kind of show that, like, Wanda is the anchor to the MCU reality, and as such is critical to its integrity and its existence, and but at the same time, it's still this Nexus of all realities. I think that makes sense. And the fact that we've already seen it in Thor: Dark World, I think is money. Like I think that's confirmation. I think that's the most confirmation we'll ever get that that's what this is.
June also mentions an important point in chat, Chris. Let me focus this on screen. We can actually put all of these awesome comments that you guys have.
Age of Ultron tied to Jarvis' vision when Tony was trying to, but I think that they were referring to, in that example, they were referring to a like flow of information, as in he was a nexus, like a central hub for information. And so at the same time, like, also makes sense. And
it's just so crazy, man. We talked about how in the beginning we knew that Wanda was going to be in Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, and we knew that the ending of WandaVision is going to tie into Doctor Strange 2 in some sort of way, because they're going to kind of like if we're recognizing another character in Doctor Strange 2 that we can empathize with, another character we can connect with. I mean, Wanda is one of them, right? Like, she's going to have a pretty big role in that movie, I think. So it's just so crazy. And just the amount of things that they started to include now, like this specific episode, like the Darkhold. Like we knew that there was going to be some sort of Doctor Strange artifact or something if Agatha and Mephisto was going to be involved, like something was stolen or something is being used, and Doctor Strange monitors all these things, right? Like he's someone that monitors the timelines to make sure that things are going all right. And this is clear, like this is popping up on this is opening his sort of spidey sense for sure, right?
Do you think that, with this being the nexus of all realities and them kind of traversing time and then pulling from other realities, do you think like the Time Authority is going to be a part of this story at all? It's like the Time Variance Authority, I think, where it's like this like ultimate group that kind of monitors, and like Rick and Morty, it's like the meatballs, right? It's like these watchers of time to make sure people aren't mucking around with the timelines. Do you think that we'll have like an authority like that come in, or do you think that ultimately they're going to combine the stories of like Doctor Strange and how they were kind of like the watchers of time? But I think
one thing we haven't had, Chris, is Baron Mordo hasn't made his full switch into an antagonist yet, right? Like in the first Doctor Strange, he was like he was opposed to some of the inner workings of how things were being run. But now I think you're really onto something, man, because after the Infinity Stone War and all of that in the comics as well, there was people who held onto the stones in different parts of the universe that were guarding them and stuff like that. And in some sort of ways, I think that this time console could also be some sort of thing too, right? Like, like the time stone is super, super important to how things are going to go down, which makes me think I don't know if you guys have seen the Loki trailer, which makes this even more interesting. I think that we're going to see some time travel stuff with Loki because there's a painted glass window with Mephisto in it in the Loki trailer. So I think that we're going to start to see some of their shenanigans. And I think you might be onto something, Chris. Like, honestly, I think that we're going to start to see, like, there aren't just going to be the Avengers. You know what I mean? We have more real estate to expand some of these stories now. Like, I would probably say no if we were only getting the movies, but now we're getting all of these different series where these kind of things can be explored, right? So I think that, it's a possibility.
Yeah, and Wesley Mons posted the TVA, the Time Variance Authority is going to be in Loki. I'm not sure if that's confirmed yet. I haven't invested too much time into the Loki trailers yet, but if that's true, then I mean that would be perfect. And I think that if this is the nexus of all realities, we're definitely going to see the TVA come in, and I think that might even be the big reveal at the end. Saying, hey, like, and also, like, honestly, that might even be Agatha's entire plan, because the TVA, I believe I'm getting this story right. It's been a while. But essentially, whenever a timeline became unviable or threatened the other realities, they would essentially just cull it. They would just like, you're out, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if Agatha's plan right now isn't to make it appear not only to us, not only to the people outside the show, not even just to convince Wanda that Wanda is doing this, but to convince the TVA. So ultimately, it leads to the destruction. Yeah. So ultimately, it leads to the destruction of the entire reality that the Avengers and the entire MCU takes place from. I think that would be a crazy level, like Thanos level event, right? Just like this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how big is this hex gonna get, man? Like, Hayward teased that it stopped growing, right? Like, and he was gonna make his move for whatever Project Cataract is. But once Wanda, the kids are I'm 100% convinced Billy and Tommy are gone, because this commercial, like, something is going to be offered to Wanda to. We know that Agatha is wiping her mind a little bit because she can't really remember how everything started, right? Yeah. But once she finds out those kids are gone, dude, like, I mean, part of all of this is that she didn't get the life that she wanted to have with Vision. Like, two big tragic events in her life are obviously the death of Pietro and then, I mean, Vision, right? Like, she killed Vision, then Thanos rewinds time and he kills him. Like, that's bad, right? So I don't know, man. Like, her grief and all of her power is tied to her emotions. We got to remember that. So I think that Yeah, we could see hell on earth, essentially, is what I'm getting at. I know that sounds like kind of corny, but that, like, seriously.
Yeah. But I think, okay, so there's an idea that, yes, she could be trying to do that in the sense, or they could be trying to do that in the sense that making that border bigger and it consuming the entire world would be, something that I think could make the TVA come in and say, hey, you guys are done. Like, we've given you enough chances. Like, we're just going to kill your world so you don't threaten the other timelines. Or the other part of that is, I genuinely do not think that Wanda created the nexus of all realities. I don't think that she, created any part of this. I think, as it's shown multiple times, in a very subtle way, multiple times, that she is more precisely in control of the border of this world. First, when Monica says that if she didn't put up the quarantine, this would have gotten much worse. Second, when Wanda literally exits the hex, she turns around, she makes it giant and red, so that nobody sees this as a thing that they should enter. And she also makes it harder. This episode showed that it was much harder. You can't just sail right through. It's something that matches your density. So you have to push through with everything you've got just to make it through. And then again, when the outside voice of an outside perspective comes in and it's like, Hayward, thank God she stopped when she did. And Hayward was like, oh yeah, I feel so grateful. Thank you so much. Equally, I empathize with what Hayward's saying, because it's like, yeah, like Wanda, from their perspective, Wanda's the one doing this. But this is again showing this like continued thing, this very continued thing for some reason, that she is more precisely in control of the border. And again, we get one last bit of evidence with that in the fight scene between Monica and Wanda, when at the very end, when Agatha's pulling her away, she's like, like she makes a last ditch effort to yell out like, Wanda, I need you to bring the barrier down. And that's the thing that triggers her. That's the thing. She's like, no, like breaks away and is like, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I think she still views herself as, the person that's preventing this from getting much worse than it is. Whereas we're all being shaped, and the narrative is being shaped to make us believe that. Well, Wanda
she walks the drone right out to Hayward, man. She could have killed everyone there instantly.
Oh yeah,
boom, boom. And one thing that's really interesting thing that I noticed too. And by the way, we hit 108 viewers, baby. Yeah, we topped out at 80 last week. So all of you new people that are joining, thank you for joining us. We're going to be going for at least a little bit longer, about 40 more minutes. So thanks for joining us. But one thing that is also super interesting is that we got the red hue was kind of a hint that Wanda was using her magic, and her magic has always been tied to that color, right? But now in this episode, we see the purple of Agatha, right? Like the purple, we see the veins in her head and her eyes change color. But then we see the same thing happen with Monica. Her eyes actually change to a light blue color when she sees the new spectrum of light earlier in the episode. So I think it's a hint that those vines are in some sort of way giving up some sort, like they're giving off some sort of toxin or something that's affected with Agatha's magic, which would make sense because she killed fucking Sparky with the poisonous bush, by the way. Remember that? She 100. She just like says it's rude to kill animals. By the way, we don't like that here on the channel. But like that is another clue, right? Because Wanda is being framed as this antagonist that's creating this situation, right? Like I think Hayward is more interested in attacking the idea that mutants are dangerous, right? As opposed to where Agatha is trying to like you manipulate Wanda for her power. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I don't know. It's like it's pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah, I think the idea that we see this basement, right, and it's overgrown. It looks ancient. It looks like it's been there for forever, right? I think this dates back to early days, and I also think that is like one of our biggest boosts of confidence that Wanda did not create this, but was the catalyst for this to be created. She was lured into a trap where she was, otherwise exploited, as we know that she's being exploited, to make this happen, to create this bridge across realities. And in that sense, I'm hopeful that there is going to be a redeeming factor, that Wanda might not be, this big bad that the world perceives her as, but if Hayward and Agatha are in some kind of way working together, even if just it's coincidentally, then I think she's going to be viewed by the world as well.
They're clearly both benefiting from this situation, because it's like both of their plans, and like one plan involves Vision, one plan involves Wanda, So it's like, I mean, I think it could be revealed that they are working together, but regardless, I see so many awesome comments in chat. By the way, we are going to get to a question and comment section after. I see so many awesome things in chat. So we'll try to get to as many of those as possible because you guys are awesome.
Yeah, and if we don't see your question, just post it again. Like you're not going to get knocked for spam. Just, I mean, well, don't do it over and over again.
Yeah, don't do it like 10 times.
But, yeah. But yeah, we'll if we don't address your question, then it's just
and mods, feel free, like Jess, Fairy Doom, anyone, feel free to send me and Chris questions, and we'll try to take as many as possible. Yeah, it's this episode was obviously so. Well, let's talk a little bit about this, and then we'll get to Monica's powers because we really want to talk about that. Do we think that we'll see some Agatha flashbacks in the next episode? Because we've kind of already seen most of the eras, right? Of the sitcoms. I think that it would be interesting if we saw, as we saw that it was Agatha all along. But I think it would be kind of cool to see, because I think that we're going to get to we either get the reveal of Mephisto like earlier in the episode, we find who Agatha is working with, or like directly at the end of episode 8, because I think that'll really, really start to set things up for the finale, unless they don't do it right until like the end of the finale or something like that, like a huge reveal, right?
I would like this episode. I would like this next episode to be the big flashback and all of the pieces and manipulation of Agatha and what she's been doing. Like, of course, there was a big reveal. Like this, essentially said, Agatha did it all along, whole song and dance. But the implications of that are not as defined as they need to be yet. And again, I believe that there's been this whole gaslighting plot, even from the very beginning, to make Wanda believe that she's doing these things, and that was something that wasn't explicitly, shown in that Agatha did it all along thing. So I think that we still need to have that revelation moment where we go back and see, like, how this started, how the bridge was created, how maybe even who the missing person is, right? That ultimately started this. Dude, wow. What if whatever the missing person is relates to Wanda, and that is how Agatha got her there in the first place? Like, I feel like that would be a great way to lure Wanda. If this was, in fact, a trap for Wanda to start this whole thing, I think that would be a great way to integrate both the story that Jimmy Woo is here and involved in the story, and the reason that this happens where it does.
One thing that's so interesting, too, that I think we'll see let's talk a little bit about this. The aerospace engineer who we think is going to, because they haven't done the big reveal yet. We did get an engineer in this episode with Major Goodner, who delivered that awesome vehicle.
Not awesome.
Yeah. But Tiana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, teased a big reveal, as in someone that we're familiar with and that hasn't been revealed yet. Paul Bettany kind of teased it, too.
Yeah. So,
But one thing I want to say, Chris, is I think that this aerospace engineer could possibly be Reed Richards, who has ties to Agatha Harkness, right? Like, she babysat his kids in the comics and stuff like that. So that could be a thing that we're seeing. This could be the person that she's contacting. It could be someone else. I've seen some pretty cool theories, like it could be Hank McCoy from the X-Men. He's another person. Or maybe even Blue Marvel, which is another great one. Adam Bashir, who is actually part of Monica's love interest from the comics. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so I am hoping...
Give us Jack Ryan.
So I'm hoping that Goodner wasn't the engineer, that there is still a big reveal. The phrasing that they use is in the plural, so there is a sense that she is still working for somebody. I am hoping that somebody is Doctor Doom, still, because the nexus of all realities kind of relates to his story as well. I think at some point he works with the Time Authority. I forget, but he relates to the nexus of all realities in some kind of way, or tries to exploit it. So I think that would be interesting. The other thing, the whole rover scene, this might be super unpopular. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone bitch about it as much as I've bitched about it, but I hated it. I hated what the rover looked like. I hated what they did. I hated the fact that they just slammed into the wall and were shocked that happened. Like, first of all, they described this theoretical technology as something that weighed 10,000 pounds of cadmium tantalum and some other thing, iridium or whatever it was, right? And then they bring out a space rover, which not on space, if that wasn't super obvious. And they bring out a space rover that has glass. It has glass. Like, what are they doing? Like, it's clearly not going to work. This clearly wasn't even part of the theoretical technology that you guys wanted, right? You know, this thing that would probably cost millions of dollars ultimately became like a RC car, and then shocker, it didn't work. I don't know why, but I hated this.
I still thought it was a cool scene. I thought it was badass because it took a lot of courage to do what Monica was doing. But she already she already knew her cells were being affected at a cellular level, right? Like, hey, third time's a charm for her to get her powers. Like that was pretty cool.
Here's the thing. She slams into the wall and then the car starts rewriting itself. And then she's like, oh my God, the car's rewriting itself. And then they're like, you need to get out. The car's rewriting itself. What did they expect? I'm so lost. I see that and I'm like, dude, don't get out of the car. That's the whole point. You're in the car, right? Like, like surely they couldn't have expected it to spit her out, right? So I don't know. The fact that she is, you know, it does show her courage and selflessness and just, you know, her being the badass that she was meant to be. And the line about, you know, her mother picking the toughest kid, you know, it's not only talking about like this idea that she is just the toughest kid in that reality. It's talking about that reality's Monica. That is the toughest Monica. You know, that's the reason that when she breaks through, we saw all of these other Monicas coming together.
Versions of her. That was dope.
It is the other possibilities that could be pushing through this world. And ultimately, the badass one comes together, converges all of the other personalities and everything that Monica is into this one being. I thought that was amazing. Everything to that point.
And dude, Nick Fury and her mom are like pushing her forward with words of encouragement. Like the echoes of their voices were in that fucking dimension. That was so cool, man.
Yeah. But again, I hated the rover. I am so sad at what it looked like and just
you know what though? It's so cool that's your only issue. You know what I mean? You're enjoying everything else so far.
No, 100%. I like. And I even say this in the video, like, because I don't want to talk about it. I hate being hypercritical of shows, but like, I just couldn't. Whenever in rewatching it, I had to like, just. I don't know. There's just plot
But
holes.
by the way, everyone, what me and Chris would love for you guys to do is comment in the live chat what your favorite scene of the episode was. Chris just talked about my favorite scene of the episode, and that was the one where she is in this nexus, and she has all the different versions of herself, and she's pushing through, and her eyes are turning blue. I also love the Agatha stuff because of the theme song, and Catherine Hahn is amazing. But let us know what your favorite moment in episode 7 of WandaVision is in the live chat. That would be awesome. We got a donation, man. We got a thank you very much for the donation. And we'll talk a little bit more about Photon and kind of our final thoughts of the episode. We'll take this question right now, though, Chris. You want to read this one out?
What question are you talking about?
Mind of the North Star, or just the comment, sorry. The donation.
Sorry. The Monica Rambeau Hex scene, Sans Rover, was absolutely amazing. By far my favorite, becoming a superhero moment in the MCU. Agreed. And also, speaking of becoming a hero moment, I want to talk a little bit about the kids there. Specifically about this moment, I loved it. The fact that she comes out and is able to see like a spectrum of energy, light, or something that isn't defined just yet. That I love that. I think that's ultimately what leads to her being able to find the basement, right? Because I believe that that's like a central hub of energy, and that's like the, that's ultimately like the focal point where the hex is coming from. I think. So I think that was great, and ultimately ties together just like this badass character. I think because of that convergence of personalities, and because what a nexus being is standard across all of the possible realities. I think Monica and her badassery just made herself into a nexus being, because we see a matching of powers, right? We see Wanda try to shoot her out, and she's like, no, fuck that shit, dude. And slams
she literally stood up to the strongest Avenger, man. What the
lands
fuck?
Lands on the ground, superhero particle effect, dude. Oh, so good.
I would love to see her duke it out with Captain Marvel now, who she does become in the comics. Let's talk about that in a second. Let's talk.
Imagine Captain Marvel comes back, and then this child that she knew like 100 years ago was just like just this badass superhero, equivalent power to her, even like probably equivalent power. I guess I don't know.
You know what would be funny if we do, like, her costume isn't picked until Captain Marvel helps her, because as a kid she helped pick Captain Marvel's colors. Wouldn't that be fucking dope if Captain Marvel helped? Like, she gets her costume in WandaVision, right? But then she helps her change the colors in Captain Marvel too. That would be so fucking cool. I want to point out a really, really funny comment from the chat. Mike Landry, the rover looked like a Ninja Turtles toy I used to have. Dude, yes. Remember the Ninja Turtles vehicle? Yeah, totally. I think that as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
So man, Monica's gonna have a huge role in Captain Marvel 2. That's gonna be amazing. And and they're gonna have a female villain in that movie as well.
Nice. So the other thing that
Moonstone.
The other thing that I want to talk about in relation to getting your powers is in this episode we see Billy, also known as Wiccan, discussing this idea of hearing people's voices and it being a detriment to him. Like, he's complaining about it, right? Like, he can hear this thing. Of course, it's because the barrier increased, and of course, it's because he's getting his powers. You know, he's becoming more fluid with them and understanding them better. But it brings up this idea of the X-Men, because in the MCU, when a new character gets their powers, 9 out of 10 times, they're just badasses. Like, they just come in, they're able to fucking, do, sorry, I keep cussing. They're able to do. You
can't really empathize with a superhero, Chris. You can, but like, Wanda is like, we can empathize with her traumas and tragedy, dude, right? Like, oh, fuck, dude. It feels so real, you know?
Yeah. But in the MCU, 9 times out of 10, they become, a badass. In the X-Men, when a mutant gets their powers, it takes them years to hone it. It is a curse for years. It's literally the reason that Professor Xavier, created the school for honing your mutant abilities. Like, I love this idea that we're seeing the side effects of powers and not just it being always a good thing that they can do and use for the betterment of the world. Like, it kind of feels like he is suffering in the sense that he can hear so much that, when he goes to the neighbor's house and doesn't hear anything, it's like a sense of peace. It's calm. It's, nothing invading his own inner thoughts. And so I like the idea that we're getting closer to this X-Men style where, powers do have a detriment that is very obvious and needs and requires, the child who's going through this to really have some guidance and to hone their abilities.
Cyclops, for example, there's always been a negative connotation with him, right? Because he's able to blast people with psionic energy from his fucking eyes.
Literally. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah. That's all I had to say, really.
But it
isn't. Oh, man.
Like, literally every mutant, right? You think of Rogue. Like, just wanting to be intimate with anybody and just not being
Wolverine
able to
in
ever
his claws
touch.
And killing Jean, shit like that.
Everybody has a side effect. Look at, the Scarlet Witch. Like, what is her side effect? Her side effect is...
literally giving people nightmares and like fucking with them.
I mean, but it doesn't even affect her, right? Like, she's like kind of sad because of other reasons, but nothing ever explicitly linked to her getting her abilities. I don't know. So I think, closer to X-Men.
One thing that I earlier that was a really awesome comment. I don't think I can scroll up here in Melon, but June from chat says, so Wanda, Monica, and Vision all got their powers from the Mind Stone, basically, and Carol got her powers from the Space Stone. And that, I mean, being subjected to these different Infinity Stones have different effects because they each affect a different part of reality. But it is going to be interesting to see, kind of like what you're talking about, Chris, these more subtle aspects and things that have been explored previously in X-Men movies, but now they're doing a reboot, right? Like, we're going to get a new Wolverine. We're going to get these new characters. We're going to get a new Jean Grey, Cyclops, and all of that. Now that Marvel has truly got to be able to absorb some of these IPs back. And I really think that it's going to be beneficial to create better stories. It's better for storytelling if there's negative and positive aspects and more balance to the situation, as opposed to like just someone who is fucking invulnerable. You know what I mean? Like Superman or some shit.
And I do think I disagree with you though about the needing these like new characters. I think that the best way for them to write this, and I think we've talked about this before, but the best way for them to write this is to keep everything canon, right? But introduce the multiverse as they clearly are doing now, and then compartmentalize, right? The reason that we don't see the X-Men or anybody that should be caring about Thanos about to, blip half of the universe out of existence, is because they were in a different universe. They were in a different reality. So you compartmentalize the X-Men and maybe the Fantastic Four, though I also think that they could still exist in the MCU or the X-Men reality. And you essentially, make it to where that's the reason. Now we have the crossing of these realities, and we see, the jumping across realities, this Nexus gateway, something like that, ultimately allowing both of the stories to still be canon without having to have another Wolverine. Because here's the thing, I don't want another Wolverine.
Well, the Russo brothers have been talking about it lately, which makes me think that I think they're going to redo all the Wolverine movies.
It would make me real sad. I think Logan is a masterpiece. I wept, man. I cried so hard that's
in my top 5 favorite Marvel movies.
It's so very, very good.
It's up there with Winter Soldier and a few others for me. Iron Man 1.
Without a doubt. So I hope that they don't, retcon that. I hope that, maybe they don't need to make it canon, but at the same time, it would be so easy to just, again, compartmentalize to its own reality, and then just move forward. Maybe you can have different actors because, I don't think Hugh Jackman wants to be Wolverine anymore, but maybe you can have new actors because of them crossing realities or something like that.
He was rumored to be in Deadpool 3, by the way. He was going to do it, apparently, and then
I would love that, yeah.
And then they changed the script because there was going to be like a road trip comedy type Deadpool Wolverine type deal, but I don't think Hugh Jackman's.
Wait, no way, really?
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
That would be so good. That would be so good.
I know, but I don't think it's going to happen now.
Man, I don't know. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are like best friends in real life. At least I'm pretty sure.
My God, chat! You guys keep on. There's so many. Dude, look at how many funny comments about Agnes actually biting the kids. I have a feeling
here's the thing. That could be foreshadowing about her literally being the one that consumes the children.
Them? Oh my God, no!
Yeah, like in the sense of them being absorbed, right? Like, what's really worse? I mean, is there any difference between them being absorbed into Mephisto and then them being consumed? I don't think that she's actually going to Hannibal Lecter cook them up and eat them with a side of olives.
She fattened them up with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's so funny. The first time I watched that, I was like, "Oh, it's clearly poison because she poisoned Sparky." But then I was like, "Why would she poison anybody? Why would she do any of that? She can literally control people's minds, Or well, I guess we don't know that, but the implication is that she's doing things and making people believe.
She mocks Wanda. And when her kids are like, "What's your mom can do anything?" and then she deadpans to the camera like, I'm controlling her," which is awesome. By the way, chat, you guys are friggin' hype, man. You guys deserve a hype train. The conversation in chat is absolutely amazing. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this, Chris, his channel, Hacks Dogma, not Hex Dogma. The link to that is in the description of the video. If you want to go subscribe, his Twitter is down there. And if you're enjoying this, we do the Marvel podcast every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the notifications. And when we go live, we're both doing lots of WandaVision content, man. Your breakdown is coming out soon. I'm going to be doing more theory videos next week. We'll be covering Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and stuff too. So if you guys are into that, you guys like Marvel, we got all you need right here. Anyways, I just want to say that because there's so many awesome people here. Go ahead, Chris.
Don't remember what I was going to say. But I don't know. I like the idea that the animals relate to Agatha. I would really love, again, there was this idea that Deadpool comes in early on because of how he was becoming an X-Men in Deadpool 2 and rewatch. I just recently rewatched those movies and it was so cool to see him just come in and we see of course the X-Men in the background but it's really just Negasonic and then Colossus the entire time. And again, both of those are great movies. I think if Deadpool did come in some kind of way into WandaVision, just so good. I don't know how they would do it. And I also saw a comment about how they would include the X-Men story about the Apocalypse. I'm sorry, not the Apocalypse, but
Namor, Apocalypse, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
that was June. June again. June is on fire in chat, bro. Holy shit.
Yeah. I think that would make sense if they do the compartmentalization route to every reality having its own thing. So, it explains why the Avengers didn't care about that and why the X-Men didn't care about Thanos. They just didn't know. And in their realities, the issue wasn't Thanos or I'm sorry, in the X-Men reality, the issue wasn't Thanos. It was, the Apocalypse coming in and wrecking shop.
By the way, me and Chris have been talking privately about organizing like a Marvel podcast Reddit or Facebook group where everybody can get together and talk about all these theories and that. So, guys, let us know what you would like, because there's all sorts of people that are messaging us on social media and in the comment section that are letting us know about theories and topics that you guys want us to talk about on the podcast. And yeah, we want to feature some of these awesome theories and thoughts and comments and questions that you guys are putting in the chat, because we can't always get to everything, but we do want to start featuring that in the future, and even maybe having some of you guys on for 10, 15 minutes to talk about your theories and stuff like that. We are going to have guests in the future. I have a couple lined up for the podcast actually after the season. So yeah, guys, let us know if you would like a Reddit or Facebook group. Like, that's something that's super easy that we could start, and it would be awesome to get everybody together and start talking about all these awesome topics, because essentially we're going to have Marvel pretty much almost every week for the next ever now, right? So hell yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I think that some character specific stories I think might be really good for both of our channels actually. Just like talking about the future characters that could be in Falcon and Winter Soldier, stuff like that. Baron, Zemo, just being one of them. But yeah, ultimately both of us have great Marvel content. So if you're here for that, then yeah, be sure to subscribe.
Hell yeah. And like the video, of course, if you're enjoying. Yeah. So I think we talked about most about what we wanted to talk about, Chris, as far as like breaking down the episode and stuff like that. Let's take some questions, highlight some comments. We got like another 20 minutes left in the podcast or so, and we'll start to feature some of your comments and questions here on the podcast, guys. So yeah, what do we want to talk about? Let's scroll up a little bit here and see if we can find some awesome comments. By the way, Hax Dogma, best Westworld content creator, bar none. Number one. I always say it, but he's number one, guys. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, let's talk about Agatha's worst offense.
Okay, let's do that.
Do you know what that is? What's your guess about the worst thing that Agatha's ever done?
I don't know. People think it's Sparky so far.
It is. It's Sparky. It's Sparky. It's killing the dog, dude.
Okay, 1 for killing Sparky or 2 for eating the kids. I'm really curious, because I think if people like animal cruel, I have a feeling it's going to be 1. What do we think?
It's 1.
1 for killing Sparky, 2 for eating the kids. Which one is worse?
Yeah, it's definitely killing Sparky, because every time Wanda walks down the stairs, what do the kids do? They give her some fucking shitty side eye about like the way she's dressed. Like she walked downstairs and it was like, oh my God, is that our mom? Like, your mom is Elizabeth Olsen, you piece of shit. Like, stop judging your mom. It's her home. Like, I don't know why.
My God, Jess. My mom keeps trying to get me to watch Hannibal, but I'm like, no, Mom, I'm watching WandaVision. Little did I know lol. Oh, that's super funny, man. You don't think she ate the kids? I know we're joking around, but we're talking about what we think her worst offense is. Unless she did bite a kid once. Oh man, here we go. 1 second.
Someone asked how does Wanda create all the mutants? Yeah, so I don't think she does. I think there's a possibility that if this isn't the multiverse route, that she does kind of like wish for mutants to exist, similar to House of M, where at one point she does, I believe she makes the wish that everybody has, or no, I'm sorry, all the mutant abilities, all the mutant wishes come true, I believe, is precisely what she did. And then she reverses that when she says no more mutants, which was a pinnacle moment in the comics. So good. So I don't know if Wanda creates all the mutants, but I think it would be interesting if that's how mutants come into the MCU. That could be
well, she's helped create one, Monica and Photon, or Spectrum, whatever name she's going to be taking out. I think it's going to be Photon.
Not to mention the children, right? Like
yeah, Billy and Tommy. Oh my goodness! Another donation and a little hype train for Morley, who makes a donation with a question. Let's feature it, my man.
Hey-o. She asks, how do you think the big bad will be revealed, him or herself in the end? Who or what will need to be sacrificed or done to make the big baddie's reveal possible? I think it's the kids. I think the kids are donezo. I think it's probably Mephisto, though at the same time...
Death pays for life type of deal?
Yeah, death pays for life. At the same time, I think... I mean, we're considering it a sacrifice. It could be them being absorbed, them being killed as a part of a sacrifice. I think it's all, essentially meaning the same thing, that the absence of these children will exist moving forward, ultimately summoning Mephisto into the story. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I talked about it in my episode breakdown on Friday and in my video today. I mean, the kids, it sounds like they're doing the House of M storyline where Agatha manipulates Wanda into having kids, this idea of having kids. And we clearly see that from the very first conversation with Agatha. And because it was a 50s sitcom, the trope of the housewife made it seem like it was just like the part of the sitcom, but it was much deeper than that, I think. And I think I think there's a very small chance the kids are coming back. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I think the kids are reabsorbed into Mephisto, who has not yet taken his final form, I guess. I still think he's the cicada because MCU likes to switch things up a little bit. Like, he's still in his weakened form, right? Like, Agatha has brought him over, right? Like, the kids aren't there when the cicada is there, right? Like, the kids are gone. The cicada is now there. The kids are not. And I think that is still going to take some more juice to get him back into his real form, I guess. If that makes any sense, chat?
Yeah, I think so too. And I also think the reason that they chose the cicada is because it's cicada represents immortality, symbolically immortality. So kind of lines there. And it also, cicadas just nasty, right? Like a little housefly, that's not intimidating. You get a nasty giant cicada, just nasty noise, just everything.
They hibernate for 2 to 17 years as well underground, which is symbolism for, the devil, hell, underground, all that symbolism that we've created through Christianity and other religions and shit like that. So,
and it's all if you've ever had a cicada on you, physically touch you, it's just it is disgusting, man. It is just
when I first asked you about the cicada, you said they're loud as hell, and I thought that wasn't even a comment where you were trying to be paradoxical in any sort of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Chris said to me, I'm like, what do you like? Because I'm up here in Canada in the north, we don't get a lot of those, right? Yeah. But the first thing Chris said to me was he was loud as hell, and then I was like, are you doing he didn't even intend to say hell, but you know what I mean? It was just kind of ironic that he used the word hell, and the cicada, I think, is the symbolism from Mephisto.
I'll never forget being at a Little League game and being up to bat and just they were everywhere, covered the field. You ran, you could hear them crunch under your feet. They were everywhere. It was foul. So gross. But
we get grasshoppers, locusts. Those and they destroy crops and shit, and they're all over your house. We get caterpillars and stuff too, but cicadas are just which makes me think since it would make more sense that they are shards of Mephisto's soul, because Billy is complaining to Wanda about all the sounds she's hearing, right? He's like, yo, the sounds in my head, they're starting to piss me off. And then we hear the cicada make that loud kind of screeching noise, right? And Wanda's hearing it, and that's when she starts to have that awakening and realization that something is wrong there. And I think that that's a pretty big piece of foreshadowing there for me, anyways. I feel like.
Someone posts, is Wanda a puppet? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that was she's not the main antagonist, that's for sure. She's being controlled by her. Okay, I feel like all of these situations have been engineered to make Wanda emotional, because we see her at the end of Avengers Endgame, and she's standing there with Hawkeye, dude. She's clearly sad, and because, listen, Hawkeye lost one of his best friends in Black Widow, and Wanda lost Vision, and they're mourning Tony, someone they both respected and cared for. You know what I mean? So I feel like what is the escalation for this to happen from then until now? You know what I'm saying? That's a pretty big escalation, Chris. So I think that we see that she storms into the sword facility. We talked about the idea of, and it's in Vision's will. He said he didn't want to be created or experimented on or created into a weapon or anything like that. Like that's specifically in Vision's will. So Wanda going there to do that, okay, that's cool. Like that seems pretty normal. You know what I mean? Like that was something, like they were lovers. They were soulmates. You know what I mean? So for her to do that, I don't have any issues with that. Like her getting, I mean, whatever. But all of this other stuff, like this is like, okay, like they are making her re-experience her traumas, dude. Look at all the commercials.
Yeah.
It's clear.
I think clearly Agnes, or, you know, on maybe behalf of somebody, Agnes herself could be a puppet, and there's still the puppeteer yet to be revealed. But I think that, yes, she's definitely being manipulated. You know, I think she has a little more agency over herself, you know, isn't explicitly a puppet, you know, tied to the strings of somebody else's will. But on the surface, yes, like she is being manipulated. This is not her plan, not what she intends to do. And she's being used for the grander play of somebody else. But the other thing, Wanda, right? So I imagine that, you know, she at some point finds out that Sword is doing this to Vision's body, that, you know, they don't view him as a person, but as an object that can be fiddled with, you know, probably why they justify, you know, breaking his will when it was clearly public knowledge. Like someone at the FBI, Jimmy Woo, knew that his will, you know, spoke against doing that exact thing. So, you know, I think it's such a big moment where, you know, for her, it's like an emotional thing. That's why she breaks in and storms it. But I also have to imagine that she's probably frustrated with Vision as well in that scene, because, you know, the whole point was that they were going to try to remove the stone and keep him alive. You know, and there's nothing to say that he explicitly wouldn't be himself after Thanos ripped his face off.
But he says there's no time for that. He's like, listen, we can't even risk it. We can't even risk Thanos getting these stones. So like,
just do it. Kill me. But, you know, in the fact that before that he had a will that said, you know, don't bring me back, do not resuscitate. Like, you know, I feel like Wanda equally could be justified in being upset with Vision, you know, that he was, you know, unwilling to be brought back, that he, you know, didn't want the chance to you know, exist again, you know, with her, you know. So I think that there could be like some you know, fear and anger there between Wanda and Vision, like a legitimate anger. But at the same time, like I think she could be talked down as like, that is ultimately what made him human. Like that sacrifice, that understanding of humanity, and the knowledge that you will die one day is a very human thing. Like, so, you know, if he wanted to understand humanity, which is a big part of who he was as a character, like that is the most human thing that you can do. And as such, it makes sense why he wouldn't want to be brought back. But at the same time, I think she would be justified in being upset. If my wife was like, yeah, just and randomly, I don't know why she would, but if she was like, yeah, if I stop breathing, don't perform CPR on me, I'd be like, hell no, I'm going to perform CPR on you. Like, there's no way I'm just going to let you off that easy. What are you talking about?
One thing that's super interesting is that in the trailers before the season, we see that Wanda and Vision get in some sort of battle. Like that's going to be, you know what I mean? Like that's like they're going to go like, I don't like the situation, whether it's Vision dying or them fighting and Wanda killing Vision, like they are going to be apart. You know what I mean? Like this situation will like something will change drastically from this situation, whether it's the Hex being gone, whether it's Wanda getting trapped in another multiverse, which is, I think is a possibility, like a swap. You know what I mean? And that's how Doctor Strange has to go get her or something like that, some sort of rescue mission or something.
Well, Doctor Strange can put people there, right? Like, isn't there like some kind of jail or something? I forget. He had Loki was in there for a bit. Someone else was in there for a bit as well. I need to rewatch those movies, but he has access to like some
the
kind
negative
of
zone, right? Like the Dark Elves were there, were they not?
All of the Dark Elves? I don't think so.
And don't the Fantastic Four go there? The negative zone in Marvel, the Fantastic Four go there as well.
I'm not sure. We may be thinking of different things. I feel like
it's an antimatter universe in the comics. I know that.
Yeah, in the movie I think they showed like this like glass reflection, like it was just like reflections everywhere, or like the glass walls, you know, geometric shapes. But yeah, I don't know. So I think that she could be imprisoned in that kind of sense by Doctor Strange, you know, not understanding what was happening. So he swoops in as like, hey, I'm Master Supreme Magic guy. You look at me, and saves the day by still believing that it's Wanda. But I don't know.
Man, so many friggin' awesome comments. Maud Mary also, I want to she had an awesome comment too. She says, who is Agatha? Is she a puppet for the ethereal dark old gods?
Someone brings up the microverse. The microverse would also be interesting as like a form of where she could be kept, like this inescapable thing. Doctor Strange put Loki into the never-ending falling dimension.
Fuck, that would suck.
It's so good. It's so good. That landing when he comes back, he like crashes into the floor sanctum, and he's like, "I've been falling for 20 minutes." Like,
and the next Ant-Man movie is also called Quantum Mania,
yes,
which is the quantum realm.
And I think that also confirms that Kang the Conqueror is entering the story, right? He's
rumored to appear in Loki. I think that remember, he can time travel and shit, right? Kang the Conqueror?
Yes, he can, but man, I thought it was somebody else for Loki. I don't know. Just recently, I read that there was
Mephisto is also supposed to be in
have you seen the news about Al Pacino?
I have not. No.
Yeah, so there's nothing, conclusive about it. But he basically gave an interview. He was like, "Yeah, I just got off the phone, or I just had an interview with I think maybe Kevin Feige, but some execs at Marvel. They want me to do this role that they think I'd be suited for. But it was a recent thing, so I don't know if it means that he's Mephisto or they're just like trying to fool us or get us off. And
no leaks in chat, by the way. If you know about leaks, I will straight up." Guys, we don't like. I could talk about it in a video, but when there's a live chat and there's like 100 people, I don't want to spoil a bunch of people that are not down for that. Some people might be down for that, but yeah. So, and like Al Pacino playing the devil, that could be interesting. I think. Yeah,
like him as a Mephisto role would be spot on. I could definitely see that, but at the same time, like, I feel like this interview was very recent. There's no way that it could be him, in the sense that, like, I think, unless I'm remembering this terribly, or whatever source I read was inaccurate, that this was a recent interview. So like a future role could have him, but I don't know. At the same time, he would be him as the devil in the MCU. Hell yeah, 100% he could pull it off.
You mentioned the Time Variance Authority earlier, which could connect with Loki, all the Loki time travel stuff, and also Kang the Conqueror, man. That could all be connected, my friend. I think.
Yeah.
Because Kang the Conqueror could be like a new Thanos, like a Mephisto is. Like Kang the Conqueror is that big of a villain, right? Like, if they're going to introduce him, he is going to be, I think, in multiple movies. I don't think they'll get rid of him in one movie. You know what I mean? Or like one series or whatever.
I think, Kang would be massive. I don't know when we'll see him. If we see him this show, it would be interesting, but yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, I think the big reveal, we know that it's somebody that Paul Bettany has never worked with because of an interview. It's somebody that he's always wanted to work with, pointing to this being an older actor. It could be Al, but at the same time, it could be anybody who's never appeared in a Marvel movie before. So.
Yeah, I mean, we think that that's going to happen with the Engineer. Some people think John Krasinski is going to be Reed Richards. That's been the best fan. That's been the big fan casting for Fantastic Four for a while now, huh? Him and John Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see him again. I hope.
I think that's the most likely appearance, like as far because Fantastic Four is going to be in Marvel Phase 4, like that's a likely. I think X-Men is probably going to be later than that. It seems like they haven't got anything on the schedule as far as like who knows, right? Like that seems like it could be a little bit closer than what we're getting with some of the X-Men stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think ultimately, it would be interesting to see Reed Richards this early, but the Fantastic Four stuff needs to come way later, after this is established and after it would really make sense that, they would be a part of the story, just because I feel like the Fantastic Four is such a volatile thing. Again, that's why I think Doctor Doom might be the better choice to start the integration. Like see Doctor Doom as like this big ominous threat, and then that creates the agency for us to want the Fantastic Four back,
because Doctor Doom could he would be the biggest phase. I think if Fantastic Four is showing up in Phase 4, then Doctor Doom's got to be like the next big bad, right? Like he's probably got to be that guy.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
he's antagonistic in like all sorts of different storylines. Black Panther, like he could show up there. He could show up in Spider-Man. He could show up pretty much anywhere. Like they can write him in pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. There's talk about old gods, the ethereal time before Odin, all of that. Yeah. And I think that all, again, relates to Kang and these cosmic entities and he's going to be the main villain in Ant-Man 3, I think, by the way. I just think he's going to appear earlier in Loki. Yeah, and someone posted in the comments that it's Jonathan Majors. Love the fact that it's him. Such a great actor. Him in, what was the show? Cthulhu. What just aired? Man,
it's Lovecraftian.
Yeah, Lovecraft Country. There we go.
It's called Lovecraft Country. Yeah.
Lovecraft Country. Such a great actor in that. I'm excited that it's him. That he's going to be in the MCU. I think he's a powerhouse, and is going to be pretty good as a bad guy.
There's really so much that we can talk about, everyone. This is where we're going to be ending the podcast. However, if you have a question, comment, theory, anything that you would like us to cover, make sure you leave it in the comment section after this video or message me or Chris on Twitter. We do have Twitter. The links are in the description of the video. Yeah, man, there's really so much. Like, Chris, you're doing a couple. What's next for you? You got your episode breakdown, and you said you're going to drop some WandaVision videos next week, right?
I'm probably going to do a video dedicated to Agatha or a video dedicated to the Darkhold book. One of those, maybe both of those. I don't know. I really want to do like something that has a good bit of research into it, just to understand the scope of what these characters are and what these objects are, and how they could really add to the MCU.
Oh man, yeah, by the way, everyone, Hacks Dogma. Okay. Go check him out. Link in the description of the video. Go subscribe to his channel. He's creating all sorts of awesome Marvel content. We'll be continuing to do that. As will I. I dropped a new video today. I'm just going to grab that link and post it in the chat for you. I talked about Cataract, Monica's powers, and also talked a little bit about Mephisto. Like I said, if you guys want us to talk about anything on the podcast, let us know in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be going live again, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday, Marvel Podcast. I think prediction for next episode, Chris. What do you got, man? What do you, is Mephisto like the main villain? Yes, we thought that we got the main villain this episode. I think that we're going to get Mephisto next weekend. I don't know. What do you think?
Possibly, though. I also think that if he comes in, it might be at the end of the episode. I think the majority of next episode is probably going to be further elaborating on the big reveal, of course, showing that Agatha was all along doing this, and ultimately the full implications of what that means and how all of this started. I think that what we really need is to understand that define what the hex is and what this anomaly is.
Flashback episode.
Yeah, flashback episode that shows exactly that and shows how it came to be. I still believe that it's a trap, that Wanda was lured here or used as a catalyst to make this happen. But yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, I think that's what we're going to see.
Oh man, yeah. A little bit of music to end the stream today.
Who's been messing up everything?
It was Agatha all along. Everybody, we do have, if we have 2 more people, hit that join button, by the way. We get 2 more emojis in chat. I did put the new emojis. We got a Wanda Funko and the Captain America shield, because Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming up. But yeah, if you want to support me or Chris, we both have Patreon, or you can hit that join button. Starts at $4.99 a month. You get to compete in extra polls, bonus content, and all that sort of stuff. Thanks for joining, everyone. We shall see you in the next Marvel podcast.